Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel. My name is Rola Nasreddine, and I am the Executive Director for Springs Global Consultancy. I would like to introduce our distinguished speakers. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Eoin Sheridan is my name. I appreciate I spell it in Irish, so it's a bit of an awkward name to pronounce. I'm the Director of Environment and Waste in KEO. I'm in the region 8 years, in the industry 18 years. I actually started my career working in law enforcement, enforcing waste legislation for the municipality of Dublin. And in that space, I actually learned an awful lot about the failures in policy and the failures in waste management on the ground. So yeah, looking forward to today's discussion with the rest of the panel.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faik Al-Haddadin. I am Vice President in Project Execution Department in DAMAC Properties, and I am PhD researcher in digital transformation in construction management.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammed Hamza Abdul Aziz. I'm specialized in waste management and recycling different types of waste. I have been working with Dulsco Recycling Environment C&D recycling facility, where we process different types of C&D waste and recover valuable products out of it. I've been working with the UAE's environmental sector for the past 10 years, focusing on processing different types of waste, providing recycling solutions, and supporting UAE's vision towards a cleaner and sustainable future. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rima Boudaba. I'm Sustainability Manager working with Climatize, part of Plus Impact. I was working in Europe for 10 years in France, basically managing sustainability during construction. And I came to GCC region since 7 years, where I'm working now on design stage of project. I was based in NEOM for a couple of months, developing sustainability guidelines for NEOM, and working with ESG, and then now with Climatize as Sustainability Manager. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me in this panel discussion.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Zulema Sanchis, Director at Accuracy, industrial engineer by background, and with a very focus on business transformation, not only digital, but processes, people, and technology. I spent 10 years in the UK in various different sectors, and I moved here 6 years ago to basically apply everything that I learned into construction, the least digitalized industry, and at the moment. I lead the Middle East business line for project advisory here, and I do market entry, business transformation, and sustainability strategy for contractors and developers. That's what it is.
Thank you, everyone. So our panel today is about from waste to valuable resource. The time to rethink waste is now. With innovation, advanced processes, and cutting-edge technology, we can transform waste into valuable resources while reducing landfill reliance. The region's giga-projects generate massive amounts of solid and construction waste. But with smarter technologies and strategies, we can turn this challenge into an opportunity. So today, our experts will discuss and explore different options on the C&D waste, on the policies, and I'm gonna start with our distinguished speaker, Eoin. First, so UAE's giga-projects are engines of growth, but also of waste. From your perspective and experience, what are the most avoidable sources of C&D waste today, and how can projects design these out from the start?
Yeah, thank you, Rola. A very good question. And I suppose it resonates a bit with what the first panel was talking about. There's really no point in focusing on one commodity in a building for embodied carbon, the same way there's limited benefit in focusing on one stream in a large project for waste management. It's all about a holistic approach. The key part of the question is start. Where can we start? And the start is actually at the start of the project, that pre-concept stage. Not at concept, and certainly not a construction waste management plan at detailed design, but at concept stage, pre-concept, understand what waste is on your site initially, what needs to be demolished, and see that as a resource. Obviously, there has to be a financial benefit in that resource. You have to have some understanding of the benefit of keeping that on site. But fundamentally, embedding circular principles into the design process from the beginning will manage all of the waste streams. Simple things like off-site fabrication are the low-hanging fruit. But there are certainly more complicated ones in terms of procurement, intelligent procurement of all the different design stages. And also designing, considering demolition. The buildings we're looking at now we're looking at refurbishment. There's an awful lot of work going on in the refurbishment market. But if we do consider buildings as a resource for future projects in the design stage, you will certainly significantly reduce the amount of C&D waste.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Mohammed, with Dulsco hands-on role in recycling, which high-volume C&D materials are most underutilized for recovery and why?
Within the C&D sector, I would say the wood and plastic are the most underutilized or material which is difficult to recycle and segregate. So there are several reasons. I'll list down few. There is lack of dedicated segregation at source. Plastic within the C&D from the C&D sites are usually contaminated with dust, adhesive, paints, which makes it difficult to clean and sort. Wood is usually contaminated or treated with different chemicals, which makes it unsuitable for reuse or safe recycling. There are fire risks associated while handling or processing these material, especially during the hotter months. So globally, if you see, it's around C&D sector generates around 2.2 to 3 billion tons of C&D waste annually. In the UAE, C&D makes up to 70 to 75% of the total solid waste generated in some of the Emirates. Dulsco Environment C&D waste recycling facilities are operating in the Emirates of Ajman and Al Quwain, and launched in collaboration with the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment and Ministry of Presidential Affairs. These facilities divert up to 97% of the waste from the landfill, converting it into valuable resources like subbase, aggregates, sand, which can be reused in the construction activities, and also support the Emirates who are working towards reducing the landfill use or closing the landfill by 2027.
Excellent, thank you so much. Mr. Haddadin, how is DAMAC using digital transformation and across planning, procurement, and on-site controls in order to reduce waste generation during project execution? Thank you.
Thank you. At DAMAC, our approach to digital transformation focuses on creating integrated workflow that's reduce inefficiencies across project life cycles, across project phases, let's say. So planners, they are involved from the beginning of the project with design stage, and they are responsible for creating the model of the project. And with the design team, they are creating to provide the explicit knowledge as a deliverable of the design stage and getting it embedded with the execution document of the project team. Same for procurement, where they focus on, they are in live contact through the panel, the digital platform, where they are having just-in-time delivery, just-in-time procurement that depend on, let's say, real-time synchronized data come from the site. Same for the same for site team and construction team on field, where they always depend on their decision and direction on real-time feedback from the site, from the elaboration and the integrated model that's been executed in their execution model and supply chain operation. So as a PhD researcher in this topic, I'm telling you, linking the asset with linking the system with the team is the essential tool, is essential foundation to control the waste and achieve the sustainable practices during execution. So assuring the explicit knowledge being transferred across project phases with the reliable data and a high level of accuracy.
That's amazing, thank you. Now we got to the innovation and scalable solutions, and I'm gonna start my question with Zulema. What are the most scalable opportunities to turn C&D waste into high-value materials? And how can giga-projects embed this thinking from day one? Thank you.
Well, some of the biggest opportunities lie into turning construction waste into something valuable for the building environment, right? Not just as a, what I call cheap field, but as a high-value material. So I'll give you 3 examples. Crushed concrete, we know that we can reuse that as a base for roads, for example, or even as an aggregate to a new concrete mix. And an example of that is Expo Dubai City. They were doing that at site, right? And when I look at, for example, Saudi, ACAM, which is a subsidiary of Saudi Investment Recycling Company, a PIF company, they are actually doing that at the moment in the market. Second will be plastic, turning plastic waste into something valuable. And now having Dulsco here, I'll take the opportunity to talk about a little bit about plastic, right? I don't know if you know, but there is one company at the moment penetrating the market very hard with a very strong value proposition, which basically takes plastic from 1 to 7 that is non-valuable, that you cannot recycle, that you cannot get value from it. And then they are turning it into a synthetic lightweight aggregate that goes into the concrete. But for me, that's circular economy, right? That's what we really want, what we are looking for, really, in construction. So it will be like waste that you can, or it's difficult to segregate, but at the end you can segregate, and you cannot get value from it. There are companies out there that are turning that into something very concrete for the building environment. It's the industry symbiosis, I call it. The waste from one industry turns, converts it into the raw material of another industry. Sorry, you wanted?
It's fine. I was just clarifying that these plastics, when it is mixed with C&D and chemicals, it becomes difficult to sort and segregate. Otherwise, it's a useful resource. We can recycle it anytime.
Yeah. No, I'm pushing you because I'm on a stage with you. But that doesn't mean that. And then the third one that I will say is all steel and aluminum. When you demolish a building, you can reuse that one. We know that you don't lose the strength as much. Like you maintain the strength in a sense, and it's something that in Asia, they have been doing a lot, places like Japan and the likes. And I don't know if you know, but NEOM is planning to start using that as a raw material as well. Then the question that you asked is, how can giga-projects embed this thinking from day one? 3 main things that I think I convey with my panelists here is design for deconstruction. I think that's the first thing that you need to do, right? So, we know that many materials, they lose the value because they mix, they fuse together, and in a way that the separation is quite difficult, right? But if you start embedding that design for deconstruction mentality from the early stage, then you are ensuring this recyclability at the end of the life. Second is set materials KPIs early, and this is for me the chicken and the egg, right? So regulators will say, okay, from now on, 20% of the material or the aggregate needs to be recycled and 15% of the material needs to be circular from the outset. Great. You are imposing or you are pushing the developers, contractors, the players in the region to upscale and rethink the way they source, rethink the way they design, rethink the way they deliver, right? They build. But then my colleagues in the government will say, like, yeah, but if we do that, Zulema, I remember one lady in Abu Dhabi municipality tell me, like, if we do that, and if the supply chain is not ready, then you break the market. And so for me, it's the chicken and the egg, right? So you need to set these KPIs, but who comes first? Supply chain pushing to, kind of upwards, or the government pushing downwards. So, and then one last thing is build local ecosystem. No materials can be upcycled without an ecosystem. And I'm talking, with collectors, with recycles, with, sorters, processors, buyers. So for me, giga projects or any projects, they can be used as the anchor, right, for, to develop these hubs, especially if they start implementing this strategic logistics thinking, right? So treating waste as a supply flow. And that will be my 3 recommendations, really.
Thank you, Thelma. I fully agree with you. Absolutely, we have to start from the beginning and use such strategies related to the supply chain and the logistics. So thank you. My question to Rima, beyond buzzwords like circular economy, which low-tech but high-impact practices could giga-projects adopt tomorrow to cut waste?
Yeah. So first, when we think about waste, we have to think about how we avoid it first and how we reduce it. And when it's produced and generated, we need to think about how we reuse it and how we recycle it. So it's about creating a higher value product from the waste. And, but effective waste management best practices depends heavily on local context. We know that most of the countries in this region, they still they don't have the market, and the infrastructure is still under development and under progress, and this may affect the waste best practices. When it comes of thinking about best practices during the stage of the project, for example, we know that at early design stage we have control on how much waste we will produce. And this comes our best opportunity to design for disassembly, for example, using prefabricated and modular construction in order to reuse them at the end of their life for reuse and to reduce the waste. Also, one aspect during the design is designing for flexibility. Flexible building can be repurposed, and their extended life will drastically reduce waste. Now, when it comes to the construction stage, here the waste becomes more tangible. So we need to think about how we reduce waste during construction. We know that the formwork and temporary work represent between 25 and 40% of the total construction waste for a traditional concrete site. So thinking about the temporary materials and formwork to be reused in another site is part of the best practices. And the classic one is the on-site segregation, using color-coded bins, for example, and training laborers and workers to separate waste, to reduce the waste, to separate material to reduce the waste, and to create also a higher rate, recycling rate for the recycling facilities. Last but not least is the waste auditing, tracking, and monitoring on site through regular site inspection will reduce will help us to pinpoint the major source of waste and to identify area of improvement. And also one of the aspects which it is part of the construction, contractors and manufacturers has to push for reduced extended producer responsibility, which means they have to take back their materials for the leftover materials on site. So it's about local context, and it's about also which design, which stage of the project we are implementing the best practices.
Great, thank you so much. Absolutely, waste auditing is very important and crucial. So back to you, Thelma. Is the built environment taking advantage of recent advances in recycling technology, like the chemical recycling or nanotechnology, to reduce the construction and demolition waste to landfill? And if not, what's the bottleneck?
It's a very technical question. I mean, I would like to say yes, but the honest answer is no, not yet, not at a scale, okay? So there are many breakthroughs that we see, but not at a scale. Let's take chemical recycling, and again, I'm not super technical. I'm sure that my colleague panelists, they are more technical than me, but what I understand is that you have companies there that can take mixed plastic and turn it into like fuel or new plastic. However, what I understand, again, is that these facilities are usually designed for packaging waste, not construction waste. So for me, well, you know, coming from the construction world, we are looking for construction waste turning into, you know, something valuable for building again. So not quite there yet when it comes to chemical recycling, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Nanotechnology, it's a big word. You know, I was in Cityscape a couple of years ago as a jury member, and this company, Carbon Cure, probably you have heard of it, the guys that they inject this recycled CO2 into the concrete, reducing the whole embodied carbon emissions and improving strengths to a certain extent. He was pitching, the guy, American guy, very good pitcher, right? He got approval for piloting that in GCC. The company actually is working a lot in North America. Yet, for me, it's not at a scale. It's still experimental at this point. So I think your second question is, what's the bottleneck, no? What's the bottleneck? So what is holding us back? 3 main things that I wanted to push forward today. Lack of demand. Most of the tenders don't ask for these innovations. So then suppliers are not going to offer them, because the moment they offer, and I've been with a client on this occasion, you know, on this situation, when they offer something, innovation comes with a cost. Until it's not fully adopted by the market, you are going to be more expensive. And yes, money is not a problem in this part of the world compared to Europe, right? But I mean, we have businesses to run, so it does count a lot when it comes to tender. So if we don't start, this is the lack of the chicken and the egg, right? If we don't start imposing slowly but surely, suppliers won't scale up, because as soon as they scale up, they are penalized to be more expensive. And I mean, I've seen it. I mean, I suffer it with my clients. The second one is the fear of the unknown. And having here a PhD in digital transformation, I've been doing digital transformation for a while. Just changing a process takes a lot for the organization to change the mindset. So just, if you extrapolate that into what we are talking today, that we are, you know, like reuse concrete and all of that, which is the most valuable material with steel that goes into the construction, everyone will, I mean, it panics, right? So it takes time. Changes takes time. So the fear of the unknown as human beings is something that for us is holding us back. And the third one is the disconnection, and having Dulsco here again. For me, the technology exists, and there are many organizations, you know, like you guys and other solution providers that they give you that segregation process in place. Still, I mean, comparing markets, and maybe I'm crossing the line here, but UAE is much better into segregation than Saudi. Yet Saudi has a 95% waste landfill diversion by 2030. And, you know, because I'm doing a couple of projects with Mawan and Cirque, yet the segregation is not very well thought, okay? So for me, there is a disconnection between how we can use the waste into something valuable, right? So the one thing that I wanted to close off this question is, for me, that's where the giga-projects come in, right? They can take the lead. So the Red Seas, the Masdar, the Aldar, the Modon, the Roshan Group, they can be the ones spending the money to pilot this innovation for everyone kind of to follow, or to bulletproof that is working, and then it will scale up. So for me, technology and solutions are here, but for me, where I'm lacking, and I'm talking from as Zulema, not as a Zulema from Accuracy, is like leadership to take it to the mainstream, right? Someone saying, like, brave enough saying, like, from now on, this is how the Emirates needs to operate, or the Middle East.
Absolutely. I mean, any new technology or any new innovation is costly, and there is a thing that people, they don't see the long-term benefit of such. If you pay now an expensive technology, but on the long term, on the long run, this will have beneficial and efficiency for you. So thank you for your insights. Now we come to the policy economics and water. My question to you on waste policies often focus on penalties, but what incentives like tax breaks, fast-tracked permits would actually convince developers to prioritize recycling over landfill? Thank you.
Yeah, look, it's a very good question, and my personal view is the quickest way to incentivize is to make it matter in their pocket. So if you, like anything, you get a, excuse me, you get a speeding fine, that's an incentive to slow down. If you make it more financially viable to do the right thing, it's what the market will follow. And I do think, I don't know if my panelists will agree with my answer, or indeed 90% of Dubai, but I do think the quickest way to incentivize change in the waste market is to increase the landfill tax. So if you increase the landfill tax tomorrow, you'll have carnage. There'll be disagreements. You know, Dulsco will want money from the contractor will want money from DAMAC. But if you put in a plan, as someone was saying, change takes time, if you say we're going to double the landfill tax in 3 years, you actually present an investable market plan where entities can say, well, actually we can invest in this because there will be revenue in it in 3 years. They're going to double the landfill tax. And then if you say we're going to double it again in 6 years and double it again in 9 years, and there is legislation in place on a global scale that actually shows how that has been a success, that letting the market know in advance incentivizes investment. But yeah, that takes a lot of time, and it's not a quick win. While you think, you know, doubling the landfill tax is a quick win, in actual fact, it will take a lot of time to incentivize that market. But I don't know if it's truly an incentive or more of a punishment by doubling or tripling the landfill tax, but I do think that's the quickest way to get genuine change up the entire value chain and allow it investable, not punishing the contractors or punishing the collection entities.
Great, yeah, absolutely. Putting incentives will speed up the process and make it more. And
you could also, I mean, sorry, not to go on a bit, but you could also, I believe that the previous panel talked about it as well in terms of the secondary material. If you put in a brokerage system that actually uniforms the cost of secondary aggregate at a lower rate than that of primary for a period of 10, 15 years, it becomes investable. And as long as you can make something investable by an entity, by a third party, it will become the chosen path. But if you allow primary be cheaper than secondary aggregate, you're really never going to get a market for secondary aggregate.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, my question to Mohammed. Modular construction promises waste reduction, but logistics and cost remain hurdles. So how can the UAE make it a default choice for giga-projects? Thank you.
Modular construction reduces waste, reduces CO2 emissions generated from the construction activities, and also speeds up the delivery, which is ideal for UAE's giga project. Authorities can support by providing fast-track approvals, like fast-track approvals, and then zoning helps. They can also invest in the local industries and train the workers, which will help to reduce the cost and the logistic issues. The UAE can boost up the use of the modular construction by manufacturing or setting up the manufacturing hubs within the industrial areas like DIC, Dubai Industrial City, and Kezat. Public-private partnership can fund these factories, which will help to reduce the import dependencies. Also, I would say that factories can also get the benefits from the national program like We Make It in the Emirates, which supports local productions, attracts investment, and strengthens UAE as a manufacturing leader.
Absolutely, thank you so much. My question to Rima, construction sites are major water pollution risk. So what's the one policy or innovation that could turn this around within 5 years?
One impactful policy for me is to integrate the waste management treatment systems into the building permitting, using strategies like filtrations of pollutant and sediment. So this should be part of the building permitting and included in the permitting process. These systems, for example, bioswales, you know that they capture and retain the pollutant and hydrocarbon before the runoff volume goes to the water bodies. The second thing is to include smart systems, monitoring and tracking the level of rainfall and sediment level using these systems. So it's about including all these systems and strategies into the building permitting.
Thank you. My question to Faik, what should large-scale developers like DAMAC put in place to support a low-waste, high-efficiency execution model across their portfolios?
Three pillars are essential, actually, to build a model, bridge the gap between the theoretical part and the tacit information, tacit knowledge, and the deliverables and the execution, which is digital integration, clear governance, and performance-driven culture. Like in DAMAC, we standardize a platform, digital platform, that give reliable data, accessible information from the beginning of the project, from the design team that give access to all stakeholders, including the contractor, design consultant, and even specialist. And we are developing it now to involve the authority who involved in the same project. And we establish a standard governance framework that align a KPI of a consultant, contractor, as well as the site team for the waste management, and sustainable practices during execution, which come from the abortive work and resource optimization. And the most important, which is the third part, the third pillar, is the MAC work on a culture, on individuals. We train the team to think in terms of value engineering, resource optimization. So we evaluate on efficiency-driven evaluation, not cost and time, and not like as an overall team. So trust me, this model, it's the bridge between theory and the applicability.
Very interesting, thank you. I have a question for you all, our panelists. So if you could implement one major change today, or drastically reduce waste in giga-projects, what would it be? What would it be? So
please go ahead.
The question is for everyone. Who would like to start?
So firstly, we should start seeing the waste as a resource, not as a burden. This is actually, we have to look into that. We should provide awareness and also encourage manufacturers to use the product which is easily recycled and reused. This will help to divert the waste from the landfill and also reduce the carbon emissions.
As I mentioned before, to make it doable, applicable, and whatever the scale of the project, or if we talk about giga project level, we need to have a system integrated from the design stage, filling the gap across the cycle of the project, across the phases. And we need to work on a culture resistivity, which it's not coming and isolated. It's also linked to the structure, linked to the governance, where it's sometimes become weak due to the lack of institutional support. So let me conclude what I was trying to say in the beginning. Ultimately, to reduce waste, okay, to make a waste management, and to achieve what we call during execution sustainable practices, it requires not only having digital platform, not only having the AI-driven tools, but mandate for a structured collaboration with a human accountability that built into digital workflow across the project lifecycle. Thank you.
Can I go? Yeah. One major change for me will be mindset change, right? So make waste a design requirement not an afterthought. Because we always talk when we cannot do anything, right? So just tagging along with what you said, technology is an enabler, but it's the human, like the brain, right? The mindset. So make waste a design requirement, not an afterthought. And this is what basically Masdar has done over the past years. And they are the leaders, and they continue to lead, because the whole culture within Masdar is completely different compared to any other developer. Okay, and I work very, very close with them. So for me, once waste reduction is embedded in the design brief, in the procurement, in the delivery, then the whole supply chain shifts, right? So you create demand, you drive innovation, and then you cut waste before it's even created, okay? So you don't parch, you just get rid of it from the very, very start. So that will be my, which is not easy, by the way, mindset change, right? But that will be magic wand, that will be what I will do.
Nice.
Yeah, for me is to mandate a comprehensive material passport, product passport, and procurement circularity, circular procurement. You know that from 2026 to 2030, product passport will become mandatory in Europe, so which means every product goes out from this region to Europe should have material passport. And digital tracking, the material passport, which means you have all the data and the details about the product, origin, lifespan, and also the potential of disassembly or reuse of the material. So this is very important. And the procurement circularity also, manufacturers and contractors should have prioritize the reuse of material, recyclables, certified sustainable materials in order to create the closed loop system. And this is part also of the product passport, and yeah, it will help a lot.
Great.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah, my view would be quantify. If I could change one thing in the market, it would be quantify and re-quantify. If we don't know the volume, the true volume of waste at a national level, there's very little in which we can genuinely do about it. And I do think if we had national data on a regular basis, everything we're discussing here would actually become more viable. You know, DAMAC obviously know what they're producing, Dulsco know what they're collecting. But if I was an investor to look at investing into a waste stream, am I going to invest on data that's 18 months old or particular sources? However, if you have a national understanding of the waste on a regular basis, all of a sudden you can actually truly understand it and analyze it and invest in it.
Great. Thank you so much, our incredible panelists, for sharing such valuable insights today. It's clear that the shift from waste to resource isn't just possible. It's essential for sustainable development, from innovative recycling methods to smarter policies and cutting-edge technology like the 3D printing and nanotechnology. The tools are there. We just need the commitment to scale them. And as we wrap up, let's remember, waste isn't an end point, but a starting point for innovation. The challenge now is turning today's discussion into tomorrow's action. Thank you all for being part of this conversation, and let's continue pushing for progress, because the future of waste is circular, efficient, and full of opportunity. Thank you, everyone. You can ask the speakers during the break, so thank you all for your listening, and thank you for our panelists for the insightful experience.
Huge round of applause, please. Thank you.